Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll start this Horiyot daf Yud Beis. We're going to begin on the very top of Yud Beis and Aleph. We were learning in yesterday's daf that when it comes to a king as well as to the Kohen Gadol, those individuals are anointed with a special oil called the Shemen HaMishcha. And we discussed that typically a Melech ben Melech doesn't have to because it's part of a Yerusha, unless, of course, there's some type of dispute. With this, the Gemara asks, Umi havi shemen hamishcha? Says Rashi, B'yimei Yehoiachaz. Of course, there was shemen hamishcha, so that's why Rashi points out, specifically in those days, that Yehoiachaz was anointed because of the quarreling with Yehoiakim. Osanya Mishenignaz Aharon, when the Aharon was hidden and locked up, so too was Nignaz Shemen HaMishcha, as well as the V'tzeinedes Haman, the manna that was there, Makol Shel Aharon, the miraculous staff of Aharon, Shekideho Peracheha, which had its sprouting of the almonds to demonstrate that he in fact is the correct leader. V'argaz Sheshalucha Palishtim Darnli Yisrael, as well as the gift in which the Philistines gave us, in which was at the beginning of Shmuel Aleph, we had the Aron thinking that would help us win the war against the Plishtim. We were unsuccessful. Chafti and Pinchas died. Eli died. This was a very tragic time, but because they were holding on to the Aron, there was a lot of misfortune happening, so therefore they gave a gift back. So that's what happened then. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, there's a lot of psukim over here. It says, "Okachtem es Aron Hashem," that they took the Aron, estatamos el hagalah, and they put it into the wagon. V'es klei hazav asher hashevoisam loy oshem teshiva ba'argaz mitzido v'shalachtem oisav halach. So that is the pasuk that they put it in this particular chest. Umi Ganzo Yeshayahu. It was already hidden, the Shemen HaMishcha, in the days of Yeshayahu. Melech Yehuda Nignaz. Shirash Kasiv Batara, because the pasuk says V'yelech Hashem Oisacha Yes Malachecha V'gomer. So this pasuk, which is quoted from Devarim Chavchas, that he was the one that he hid it. So. And Vatsimba v'Nignai Shenemar, he was commanded to hide it. V'Yarmel Lavim Hamavinim L'Chol Yisrael Hakadashim L'Hashem Tenuas Aron Hakodesh B'Vayis Asher Bana Shlomo, to put the Aron in the place where Shlomo built the Beis Hamikdash, who was Ben David Melech Yisrael. And again, he was instructed to hide it. Ein Lechem Mas B'Kateif, that there was not to be on the shoulders. Aton now, Ivdos Hashem Okechem, yes, Amo Yisrael, serve. The Rebbe Lezer, Asya, Sham Asya, Mishmeres, Asya, Dairis. So we can go through all these psukim in the Torah, but basically we have this question. But let's first look at this Rashi. Inochem Masa B'Katev. Im Goyim Ochem Shuv Einochem Achzir Moisim B'Kisfeihem. Siva L'Goinzo. Basically saying that normally we carry the Aron on our shoulders among the other Kalim, and he said that when we come back, there's not going to be the Aron. And of course, we know the Aron was not in the Bayis Sheni, among other things. But the kasha again stands. How do we say that in the days already of Yoyachaz, he was still being anointed with these oils, when clearly that was not the case? And Rashi goes through all the different Gzer Shavas. Okay. So anyway, Omer Papa Bas Farasma Dechaya, which is what we said before. It was like balsam oil. In other words, you're right. He wasn't anointed with the same special anointing oil in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, because it was Nignaz in the time. It was already Nignaz in the days of Yeshayahu. So he succeeded that generation. Yoyachaz did. So even though it's true that Yoyakim was contesting the Malchus of Yoyachaz, it didn't make any difference, even though there was oil, but it wasn't the same. Tanabadim. So what was the process of anointing kings? So Kamin Nazer, it's comparable to that of a crown, is how they would do this. What does that mean? Vesa Kohanim, that's like a crown. You would make like a crown with the oil. However, Vesa Kohanim Kamin Ki. When it comes to the Kohanim, it was Kamin Ki. So my Kamin Ki, what does that mean? So Rav Menashe Bar Gada Kamin Kaf Yoini. So what is that? You can see on the side, it almost looks like a huge ches. So they would do these three sides. Says Rashi, Kamin Kaf Yoini Shemaschil Limshaych Be'emsa Bein Risa Einav, that they would be getting anointing like by the eyebrows and then go up. B'moishech etzmo al harosh v'hoylech ad shirgil oirif kikaf yoini kazeh. Okay, so that's how the description of how it was done, and it was done in that way. Tani chada b'chil ma'iskin shemen al roisha yachnais and loy shemen bin risa einav. One place it says that it would first put the oil on his head, then only afterwards by the eyelids. So which one was it? What came first in the process? So Tanoi, some say that the anointing is better, and so therefore that goes first. The pouring goes first. So again, whether you hold that the placement of the pouring of the oil on the head, so that is yitzika. So is that more chashiv than anointing it? So my time yitzika difa. So which one's better? So why would you think that pouring the oil is better? Because the pasuk first says in this order, v'yutzak mishem mishcha, that they poured this special anointing oil, al roish Aaron. Then it says v'yimshach ha'isol l'kacho. Then it says they anointed him. So why is the pasuk that way? It must be telling you that's the proper order of how it's supposed to be done. That's similar to when it comes to klisharis. Now klisharis, the only thing we do is we anoint it. We don't actually pour onto it. And therefore, because of that, since by klisharis it demonstrates that even without doing the other is okay, so therefore it must be that anointing is more chash. But the pasuk does imply that you do the pouring first. So the only reason why you do the pouring is because of the anointing. So therefore, the anointing already took place before. Tanaban. From this good oil. So let's see what this pasuk is referring to. And this is in Tehillim. Keshemen hatoiv al roish, like the good oil on your head. Yared al zaken goes on the beard of Zakan Aaron. Shiyared al pi midaisav. Okay, so what is this teaching us? So the Gemara says it's kamin shnei tipi margolios. It's like these two pearl-shaped drops. Hayatuliyos Aaron b'zakanai, that were put by the beard. Omar Papa Tanikashu Misaper Oilois V'Yoshvais Lo Be'ikr Zakanai. Yaldaber Zeh Hayamoisha Dayik. So what happened? So he said that when he was doing this, so Moshe thought when he got Aaron dressed that he may have touched some of this oil that was on his beard, because he had all this oil all over him, and he thought maybe that's a big problem, that he wasn't allowed to do that. That's what Rashi says. Shema chas Hashem malasi b'shem hamishcha shenigati bo kishehil b'ishtiv. When I was dressing Aaron, maybe I somehow removed some of it. So that's what the Gemara is talking about over here. So again, kishumas Misaper oilois Yoshvei Lo Be'ikr Zakanai V'Yaldaber Zeh Hayim Moshe Dayik, who's afraid. Omer Shema Chas Hashem Malasi Mishem Nemishcha. Maybe some of it I took off of his beard. Yatzabaskoy of Yermer Kesheman Hatay V'Goymer. So that's the pasuk is alluding Ketal Charmoin, Matal Charmoin when it comes to this dew. In Bo Me'ilah, there's no prohibition if you would use this dew. So Avshalom Mishcha Shibazaki and Aaron in Bo Me'ilah. You didn't violate anything by taking the oil. V'Dayin Hoy Aaron died. Now Aaron was afraid. Omer Shema Moshe Loy Moil. Maybe he's not moil of Animal Alti. Maybe I shouldn't have allowed him to do it, right? So fine, he's not going to be held accountable. Maybe I'll be held accountable. So Yatzabasko of Yarmulo Hini Matay B'Manayim Sheves Achim Gam Yachad Ma Moshe Loy Moil Af Atol Ma'alas. So that's the pasuk that the Sheves Achim Gam Yachad. It's not just Moshe, but it's also Aaron that they didn't do anything wrong. Tanoban Ein Moishchin Esamolachim El Al Hamayin. That we only will anoint the kings by spring, which is some people say is the Indian of Tashlach, that when we're mamlech a king, so it's done by a body of water, right? So that's we see Kadei shetimshach malchusam, that the malchus should endure. Shenemar v'yemer hamelchahem kachui machem es avdi adonehem, take the servants v'gaimer v'rantem oiso el gichain, and you should go to Nachal Gichain, to this body of water, and that's what you should do. Okay, so the whole passage v'yomer melchem t'chulechem es avdi oneichem v'chavte es shloimai b'ni al perda asher loy v'ratam oso al Gichain. Okay, so this is referring to by Shlomo Hamelech, and he did this with his kids. Okay. Rabbi Yomi, Haiman de boy Leda. Someone wants to know if he's going to live out the year or not. So Nitli Sharga Basar Yoime Debain Rosh Hashanah Lemekippurim Bebesa. He should put a candle in his house during the Aseret Simei Tshuva. Deloy Noshiv Zika, that no wind came near it. So Imashech Nahoira later the Masik Shasya. If let's say it turns out that the somehow the candle gets burnt out, so that could again be an issue. But if somehow the candle continued, so then it demonstrates that you also will endure. So this is a nice test. Just staring at a candle. You can say, well, what does a candle have to do with me? Okay, near mitzvah Torah or, but that's an inanimate object. That's we're going to be toila on that. So man de boy lamevid beiska, and someone let's say wants to do a business deal. Boy lamedim matzlach mitzlach wants to know it's going to be successful. So Lirbi Tanagoyla, he should bring up some like a rooster. Ish shaman v'shaper. If it gets healthier, matzlach, he'll be then he'll be successful. Haiman de boy lamepig orcha want to go on the road. A boy leda ichayzer be'asil beisa. We're going to get home. Nekem bebeisa de chavra. You should have your house dark. Ichazi bevoa de bevoa. If you see the shadow of your shadow, leda the hader be'asil beisa. You're going to return. The law milsi. Oh, this is not true. Dil machal shadaite umisra mazla. So one has nothing to do with one another. It's possible that you're not doing well. Says Rashi, the zimna the afagam the leisla bevod bevoa. Unless you don't have a shadow of a shadow, hadarasi, you can still come back. If you'll hachi lo levid hachi dilma uchazi bevod bevoa. What happens if you don't see it? Chol shadat, you're going to feel bad. Umisr mazli, you're going to have bad mazel. V'loi hadar asi mishum di isri mazle. So your mazel, your upbeat spirit is very important. But if you're down and depressed and have all this anxiety to think you're gonna not make it back home, so it's almost like your own prophecy of your problems. So a person shouldn't do such a thing. Okay. Now we have a very famous Gemara. This is also Rosh Hashanah related. The reality that doing something may actually of some type of an omen has some meaning. You should always be seen at the beginning of the year with a kaira, with a gourd, veruvia, which is like fenugreek, karti, leeks, the silk of a tamri, beets, and dates. And again, this is like the Simonim on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. And Rashi says, Dahani Gadli They grow up faster than others. So that's interesting. We have all these other reasons, Tamos Sainehem, our enemies should be decimated, all these things. But it really just has to do with it's very quick to grow. So that's what we're hoping for. So it's interesting, both Simanim are mentioned in this Gemara, and that's what this is the sugya for it. So Armalahu Rav Misharshia Lubre, he said to his son, Ki b'isu ma'il migmar kamei ravaichu. When you wish to go in front of your teacher, garsu masnisa v'olu kamei ravaichu. You should learn whatever you need to learn and then go in front of him. Ki asvisu kamei. When you come in front of him, chazulapume, you should show your face. So your face should be seen. Garisu garsi al nahara damaya. Let's see, is there a Rashi on this? Not really. Okay. The chi the mashchen maya, just like the water's flowing, mashchen shemusaychu. So when you're learning, you should go to water. So water sometimes has this effect of helping your learning. As the water flows, so ideas could flow. The tevu kilkuli demasa machasya, and you should better that you should sit on garbage, even in masa machasya lisu afdani de bapumdisa, in the palaces there. Tav, obviously, because as Rashi says, Habi Tamid Chachamim Ruin L'Hoira V'Charvus Yafa Hoya Behem. Their destroyed, dilapidated buildings are better because you're among Tamid Chachamim, so than to be in a beautiful palace. So the place around you is not what's important; it's the people around you that matter. Tav Galdina Sarya. So better is this fish that may be smelly, the masamachasi lamechel mikutcha derami kipi, then eating the kutach, this delicious dip, if you will, but in the rami kipi, in the breaks of rocks. So again, the same idea. Rashi says ve'il in Perkei Eloivrin shosh devarim nemru bekutach. With regard to this dip called kutach. It says metimtum is a label. It kind of messes up your heart, your thinking. Mutav teichel giltana. So yeah, better that again you should eat these types of fish, which may not be necessarily so good, but it's better to do that which she'ein demeim yikarim. They're not so expensive. Mekutach sha'oicha maiso ashirim v'sarim, that only very wealthy people buy. Hadarim b'roimi kipi, that's where they live. Koimer memegadlan b'chaimas gedolim efisha demeim yikarim. Basically, better you should not spend your money so much on food, but you should be sensible and even get not so expensive food, and not like the special foods like the kutach, which was in this particulation in the Masa Mechasya. Okay. One second. I think I may have skipped a few lines. Let's go back up here. So when you learn in front of your Rabbi, you should learn it first. When you're sitting in front of him, you should see your face. Okay, I did that. There you should be by water flow. Okay. Okay. Makudcha de Rami Kipi. Okay. So Rama Karni Belohai Rama Karni Veloy Rama Pachi. So what does this mean? Better that you should be. Let's just find this Rashi over here. In this elevated horns, than to be Veloy Rama Pachi, and not to be among the flask. David Shlomo Shenim Shachab Karen. So being elevated with a horn, right? Because it was a horn, Nimshach Malchusan. So his malchus was very good. So he was elevated with a karni belokei rima. However, Therefore, his malchus lasted very long, because David and Shlomo, they were anointed with a horn. Shoyel v'yehu shimshchu b'pach, that it shouldn't be with a flask. Lo nimshecha malchusan. HaMashiach b'shem ha'mishcha tarabana. Mashiach yachol melech. You would think a king. Talmud lemer koyin. Koyin yachol maruba b'gadim. Maybe it's even including the din is even someone who doesn't have Shem and Mishcha is a koyin gadol. Talmud Mashiach. So Mashiach yachol Mashiach mulchama. Even the kohen gadol who goes out to war. Talmud lemer b'hakoyin haMashiach. Sheina Mashiach al gabav. There's no one above him, which means the one who does the avodah of Beis Hamikdash. So my mashma. How do you see that from this pasuk? Kediyam Rava, as the pasuk also says, hayarech hayaminis shibiarech. Sachinami haMashiach hamiyumin shibimoishchin. So just like the thigh is of the stronger part of the hand, or it's the loftier, higher position. So too, when it comes to the kohen gadol, the HaMashiach is referring to only him, but not the Mashiach Milchama. Amar Mashiach Yachol Melech Par Hu Demesi Sir Hu Demesi. Understand? We already established that the Melech will bring a sire. So Yitzchak Lamina Al Shkogas Ma'aseh Yavi Sire Al Helm Davi Yavi Par Kamash Mulan. So you're right, but maybe there's the distinction that the only time he'll bring a par is if it's helm davar, where he paskin this way. However, when he didn't, then maybe you would think then he would bring a sire. So it's the difference between a par and a sire, whether he had helm davar. Kamashmon doesn't make any difference either way. Of course, the carbon is the same. Ein bein Mashiach b'shem hamishcha v'chu. So Masnisan lo k'Rameir. Ni Rameir hatanya maruba b'gadim maybe parabar kol mitzvahs Rameir. V'lohadol chachamim. So it's actually a machlokus whether or not is it when the kohen gadol brings the par, is it dafka the kohen gadol who's mamish the Mashiach b'shem and hamishcha, or is it even a later time, like in the second generation, second Beis Hamikdash, of a Meruba Begadim? So it's a machlokas that the Meruba Begadim will bring a par kol mitzvahs, or he just brings a si or a kisbel like any yochid. So my time to Rameir. So why does Rameir say that even a Meruba Begadim does? So why? So my time to Rameir, Desanya, Mashiach. And he also brings a par kol mitzvahs. Talmud lemer hakoyin Mashiach. So b'mai kimte karabanan. So therefore, what are we going to do? We have to therefore establish a mishnah that makes a distinction between the Shem and the Mishcha and Meruba Begadim, whether a par habal kol mitzvahs is brought. So that's only like the Rabbanan, because Rameir holds it's brought regardless, even the Meruba Begadim, as we continue to be the base. So I'm a seva. The only difference is a par Yom Kippurim, the Asir Sa'efa, that only the actual Kayin who is serving has to bring the par Yom Kippurim, and also the Asir Sa'efa, which is brought daily. So Atayin Rameir Desanya Yerubah Psul the Kayin Gadol. If let's say we find out there's something wrong with the Kayin Gadol, but other, and then he's passed up. Umina Kayin Achatach, there's another new Kayin that takes his place. So Harisha and Chayzel Avodasai. Vasheni kol mitzvahs kahuna Allah, Dev Rameir. According to Rameir, he says that the first person will eventually go back to his job, and the second person has all the dinim of being a kohen. He says, indeed, the first one does go back to his original job. However, not that he does take upon himself a lower role. No, once you're already in a position of being this great lofty position of Kohen Gadol, you can't go down, right? That's we're going to see the famous expression in a second. Rabbi Yosef ben Elam Mesipur She'ira B'Psul B'Kohen Gadol Yabra Minu Achatachta V'Lo Hinchiu Achav V'Kohanim L'Yoslu Kohen Gadol V'Kohen Hedget. Kohen Gadol, why not? Mishum Eva. You can't have two people in this position that are side by side. It's going to cause animosity. Kohen Hedit Mishum Mal B'Kodesh in Meridin. And they also can't put him down as a Kohen Hedit because that's a lower, it's a drop. So therefore, because of that, anyone who is a Kohen Shavar is not able to do anything. So how can we say that, the only difference is the small difference of Yom Kippurim and the Ephah. What are you talking about? He's not allowed to do anything. So that's only that the Rabbanan's clearly not like that. So Reish Rabbanim is Sefer Rameir. Yeah, why not? Reish Rabbanim is Sefer Rameir. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi. Actually, our mission is like Rabbi. And he splits it. Rabbi Omer Shimoni. Actually, it's a different opinion altogether. So Rav Shimon agrees with Rav Meir with regarding one thing, namely the Seifa. However, the Reisha, he disagrees with him because he holds that someone who's Merubah Gadim does not bring a par alcohol mitzvahs. The Sanya. Devarim shebein kohen gadol kohen hedyet elheim par ba alcohol mitzvahs if par yom kippurim yaseso efa. V'loi parua v'loi pairam. Also regarding not getting haircuts and the like. Aval hu pairim milomata. But he could he could rip it on the bottom of the beged. V'hedyet milmala, and the hedyet does it from the top. The ein matama lekroivim. We don't allow him a kohen gadol to become matama to kroivim. Umuzer al basula. He can't marry someone who's not a basula. Yosef almana. Umaser asuret seyach. As we said in the Mishnah, that if someone kills b'shoigeg, he murders b'shoigeg, and goes to Ari Miklat, the city of refuge, so then he waits until the kohen gadol dies, which includes him. Umakrib oinen. He can be makrib korbanos as a mourner. Ve'enu oichel, but he's not allowed to eat from this carbon as an oinin. Ve'enu choylek, is not. This is not divided up. Makriv chelik baroish, noitel chelik baroish. That when it comes to the kohen gadol, he always gets the upper amount. Mishamish b'shmoin begadim. He gets to wear 8 garments. Why it's called merub begadim. B'chol avodas yom kippurim enu kashera. El boy. Only the kohen gadol can do the avoda on Yom Kippur. Pader al tumas mikdash kadashav. And when it comes to tumas mikdash kadashav, he's pater. And we said before a little while back is because tumas mikdash kadashav is a situation where a person, this is brought down more in Mistach Shvuas, it's considered to be a carbon oil v'yayirid. And oil v'yayirid is for someone who's rich or someone who's poor, but a kohen gadol is not shaykh to become poor, so it doesn't fall into that category of bringing the carbon oil v'yayirid. The kula no hagin beru b'gadim. So this is like the reish of the Mishnah, that everything is noig when it comes to also beru b'gadim. Chutz mipar. Maybe I'll call mitzvahs, v'chol no hagim. Fine. So that's proof like our Mishnah. And then the second wide line it says, v'kul no hagim b'mashiach. Everything applies to the kohen who is anointed. Sha'avar, even though he was removed. Chutz mipar yom kippur v'aser seif, which again is the seif of the Mishnah. V'kul and eno hagim b'mashiach milchama chutz me hey dvarim hamurim b'parsha. So when it comes to someone who's anointed king, so all these dinim do not apply except for 5 things. There's only 5 things that a Meshuach Milchama applies to. What are they? Namely, will poireya v'lo poirim, about rending his garments, letting his hair grow. V'ein matam l'kroivim, just like a regular kohen gadol, a kohen gadol cannot become matam to even his relatives, even his Zion relatives. Umuzer al-basul, he can't marry basul, ba'ula, the asim al-mana, u'masas or etzech de Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda brings down that even Meshuach Milchama, they will go free from the city of refuge. Chamim armim enu machzer. So they say enu machzer. So based on that, v'hai mamai derive Shimon he hanu etzar Shimon. So Mar Papa man shamas le diamar paterash tumas mikdash kedasha Rav Shimon. Only person we know that has such a shita that when it comes to Tuma, the person, if they become Tameh through Tumas Mikdash Kedashav, that according to him, you would be Potter. Chutz mehei devarim hamur b'parsha. So how do you know these 5 things? The Tanurabana. The kohen gadol me'achav. Zeh kohen gadol asher yutzak al rosh Hashem mishkan is head. Obviously, that's zeh mishol macham. He's being anointed. Milei es yadav v'ilbash asab gadim zeh merub gadim. So merub gadim is coupled together with the anointed one. V'al kulan hu oimer roshel yifra v'gadav v'yifraim v'al kol nafesh mesel yavoy. He can't become tamei. Yochi he kulan makrivin Oinin, so you would think anyone could bring me makriv, a carbon, as an oinin, right, basically right after the let's say the father dies. Talmud Loimer ki nezer shemen mishchas alav, on him, on the Kohen Gadol, v'lo al chavero, but it's not on everyone else. The echad avacha shecholku hakasav yochlo yehei mitzvah al habasua. You would think that he would not be mitzvah on a basula, and then he could marry even a ba'ula. Talmud number behu kitanai behu yishav so yikach. So this is in Parshas Emor. Ach shechil kekasiv riba divrei Rabbi Shmuel. So the word acher is coming to be used as a riba, so it includes more people, including the what we just said. So that is Rabbi Shmuel. Bikiva Eimer ainly Ella Shavra Machmas Kirio Machmas Mumin Manayin. How do we know if he was removed because he had a mum? Talmud remember who? Balmini Rabbi Rav Nachman Mashiach. It's someone who is a Kohen Gadol, who is was again anointed, and then all of a sudden there was Saras Sumaho. Ba'almana mincha dachi. Do we say that he's pushing off the almana? O mifter pater. So what exactly happened over here? So again, you have someone who's a kohen gadol who has saras. Now normally when we say that a kohen has saras, he's like not a kohen anymore. So because of that, do we also say that that's the case when it comes to his relationships, and therefore he could even, let's say, marry an almana? Lo habibiyade. So Zimnan Havi Yosef Rav Papa became a boile or Malay who in the beret Rav Nachman Rav Papa. So he said to Rav Papa, Tanina, we learned the following: Ainli Ella Shavar Machmas Kiria. I only know if, let's say, it's because she's because of being a carry, which is what she says. However, Kiria of our Machmas Mumin Manolan. How do we know that the din also would be that he was a bal carry ovar because of a mum? Talmud loimer behu come nashki bereshi kissed him v'yoivle barte, and he gave him Rav Papa's daughter. Okay, so he was just so impressed by this apparently. Okay, let's look at question 10. Kohen she'avar madul Rav Yosef ina mashamish lo kohen gadol kohen hedget. So again, it can't be kohen hedget because Mom Kodesh didn't read it. Can't be kohen hedget because kohen gadol because of Ava. All right. Okay. All right. There's nothing on TB. Let's see. TA. Chatas oif shechnas dama. No, I didn't do 1 second. We must have done this. 2 kings were anointed with a fasrma, Dachia, Yehu and Yoyachaz. Madul nimshacha b'shemen mishcha. So we said we had this already. Either because in the time of Yoyachaz it just didn't exist because it was already Nignaz in the time of Yeshayahu, or in the days of Yehu because Shahaya Melech Yisrael. Okay, let's keep going. Let's get to the next Mishnah. Says the Mastis, in Kohen Gadol Poirim Milmata, he can rend his garment from the bottom. The head did Milmata from the top. Kohen Gadol Makriv, Kohen Gadol can be Makriv Karbanos as an Oinin, Oichel, but he still can't eat from the Karbanos. But Hedjit Lo Makriv Lo Oichel, a Kohen Hedjit who lost one of his relatives, he can't even be Makriv. Obviously, he can't eat. Says the Gemara, Omarav Lomata Mamish from the bottom. Lomal mamish at the top, like at the neckline. Shmuel Armino Lomata means Lomala Mikmei Shafa. That it means Lomata below means under the border of the neck opening. Lomala Mikmei Shafa, which is referring to the neck itself. Zeb but Savor, but both cases are referring to by the neck. Mesve al kol ha mesim kulon. Al kol mesim kulam ratza mabdul kamei shafa shaloi. Ratza ena mabdul kamei shafa shaloi. So he must be he must be this. It must be this, which is a real rending of a beged. So the Kohen Gadol shouldn't be allowed to do it. Right? He's saying that Ratza enu mavdil kamei shafa shalo. Which is basically saying that it's got to be done a certain way. Yal avav al imo mavdil. He can just do the top of the seam. Kivan dem al mahavi, since it's generally done, kaira, you can rip it. Kari kan begad of Yifram. So Shmuel Rabbi Yehuda Siroli, the Yamar Kol Kari Sheinu Mavdil Shafa, any rending which is not done also by the neck, Shalo Einoi Ella Karshal Tiflos. It's like a foolish tiflos. You have to do it the proper way. Numisa Rabbi Yehuda Kriya B'Kohen Gadol, that the Kohen Gadol can still rend his garments upon hearing the death of a relative. But Tanya, Ilu Nemaroi Shal Yifra, Begad Yifra, and how you say you would think, Baroish Ubegad Shal Saita Kasamadam, we're talking about a Saita. Talmud Es Roish show his head, Lo Yifra, Vagadav, his garments Lo Yifra. Shan so She'eno Beprima. Kol Iker, De Rabbi Yehuda, Shmuel Oimer, Eno Poyim Kederech Shebnei Yadin Poyim. You have to do it differently. Elohu Molamata, Behedim Molamala. You have to do it the opposite way. Shmuel Savar, like Rabbi Yehuda, Bechada B'Hagla B'Chada. He agrees with one and disagrees with the other. Okay. So when we said a Saita, so Rashi points out, because it says Masech the Saita, Hakayin oiches mivagodeha. The kohen holds on to her garments. Im nikru nikru. Im niframu niframu. If it rends, it rends. If it shreds, it shreds. Shmuel Savar Kabachada Rabbi Yehuda. The whole she'eno mavdil mikamei shafa havikar shel tiflos. If you don't rip it properly, it's like a foolish this. However, he disagrees. Deal Rabbi Yehuda Savar the kohen gadol enu priya kol ikar. He doesn't have to do anything. Shmuel Savar. Deroifin Lomata Lomata Mikmei Shafa. Okay. We are going to stop here. Adkan.